Welcome back to Cracking the Cryptic, where today I'm going to continue our series of round the world Sudokus, and this puzzle has come in from the Netherlands from one of our patrons there, Andrew Menz, so thank you very much for sending it. I'm not sure yet how difficult it's going to be. Andrew said that he needed a solver towards the end to provide the difficult final steps, and he'd certainly like us, I think, to talk through the logic involved in some of those more exotic techniques. So I hope we'll be able to find those exotic techniques for you, and I hope I'll know them well enough to talk you through them. Now if you'd like to have a go at the puzzle, just click on the link under the video, and you should find you're taken to our software where you'll see exactly what I see. So this is a very good interface that we're developing all the time, and I think the feedback seems to be that it's really hitting the mark, so that's good. Now, how would we do the puzzle? Let's start. Threes. Let's put a 3 in there. Sixes must be in one of the top two positions in this box because of this 6 and this 6. And 6, 6, that's going to be a 6 there. Sign of the devil, but not really in Sudoku. Fours, look, fours, that's going to be a 4. Let's mark some 4s over there. 9s we can't use yet. 6s, 3s, 8s. Must be an 8 in one of those two positions. No 8s yet over in the right hand shoots, so we probably have to stop there with 8s. Pencil mark some 8s down there. 6s, these two 6s mean there's a 6 across the middle there. 5, 5s are interesting. This 5 here means there's a 5 in one of these 3 cells. I won't pencil mark that, let's just remember it though, because this 5 now is important. That means that that's the only place a 5 can go in the bottom middle 3x3 box. 5's here. Now, there must be a 1 in one of these 3 cells because it can't be here. So there's a 1 in one of these 2 squares. This 2 means there's a 2 in one of these 2 positions, and therefore also on the left-hand side. 3s, and this 3 means we get another big digit, which are the ones we're looking for. Pencil mark some 3s over on in this box. I'm going to take a look at column 5 now. Normally when you get 6 digits it's worth just checking whether or not there's anything going on. So you can see we need 7, 8, 9, and there is. That can only be a 9. Let's make sure we put our pencil marks in, and 7 and 8 up here. Now this 8 means actually this must go 8, 7 in that order. Now can we do anything more with that? 8, 7. Nothing I'm immediately seeing. We've got 6 digits though in column 3 as well, so let's take a look there. We need to place 2, 5 and 9, so this one can be anything. Am I gonna, no it can't actually. Look, we've got 2s in those 2 squares. That can only be 5 or 9. Okay, and that can only be 5 or 9 because of the 2 here. So this square is a 2. 2, that's nice. That gives us a 2, 6 pair now in the central box. And we still need to place 5, 7, 8, 9, and we have 7 and an 8 here. So these 2 squares are 7 and 8. I'll use this notation. I will also add that notation as well, just to keep track of the, when I'm scanning rows and columns rather than boxes. 7 and 8, so these 2 squares here must be 5 and 9. Now that's interesting as well, look at that. So 5 and 9 into these 2 squares. Now here, we've managed to find a 5-9 pair, look, in row 5. So we're still looking to place 4, 7 and 8 in the rows. Oops. So this square can now only be 4 or 7. And this square, 4 or 8. Okay, well that's still not hopeless, is it? 6. Now, in these three squares, we need 1, 3, and 6. Now, we don't know a great deal about those. We know that can be 1, 3, this is 1, 3, or 6. This is 1, 3, or 6. But the important thing is that the 6's point at this square. So this square can no longer be a 6. That's going to be a 2. And the 6 will move over here. Now, this 2 forces this to be a 2. And remembering that when we've got numbers notated in the corner of squares, we're saying we're looking at the 3 by 3 box logic. So we're saying within the box, the 2's can only go in 2 positions, similarly the 1's. So at the moment I place a 2 in this square, I also immediately know this must be a 1, and therefore this is a 9 to complete the box. Now this is a 5, look. This is a 9, this is a 5, this is a 9, and we are doing nicely here. So we've got these 3 columns all filled, and lots of additional information that we're going to have to concentrate on to try and find the breaking point. So how can we do this? Let's have a look. Let's start with row 1. Why not? So we need 4, 6, 9. So this square can only be 4 or 9. This square can only be 4 or 6. And this square can be anything. Well, 4, 6, or 9. Why not? I'll notate it. 1, 4, 1, 4, 7 along row 2. So that's a 4 or 7 because of the 1 here. These 2 squares can be anything. I'm not sure. I don't really want to notate the whole grid. So let's just see if we can pick off some good cells. Let's have a look down column 7 here. 1, 4, 5, 8. So that square's good. That's only a double. That's a 5 or an 8. This square can be anything. 8. Now that's a good square as well. That's a 1 or an 8. Row 9, we need 1, 2, 3, and 6. So that's a 1 or a 6. We've got 4, 6, and a 1, 6 now in column 8. 2, 3, and 6. So that's a 1 or a 2 as well. And that's a 1, 2, or a 3. Sorry, I just need to stare at this just to see if I can pick up anything. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at this one. We've got 5 in this row. So 1, 5, 7, and 8. That's 1, 5, or 7. That's anything. It's 1, 7, or 8. 7, 8 there. 7 or 8. And let's have a look at this row as well. Row 4, we've got 5 digits in. So 1, 4, 5, and 7 again. Nothing really going on the left. 1, 4, 5 here. And 1, 4, 7 here. Snooker. Right. Well, is this in any way useful? Not immediately to me. There's a similarity between these numbers, but that 4 breaks that up. So that's looking for bent triples. That's one of my favourite things to look for in these puzzles. Is there a way of getting rid of this 4? Yes, there is a way of getting rid of this 4. Look at that. If we look at the 4 here, the 4 here means that the 4's in this top right 3 by 3 block are locked into one of these 4 positions, i.e. column 8 or column 9. This 4 here is having the same effect. It's shifting the 4's. In fact, we pencil mark them down at the bottom into one of these 2 squares. So I still need to place a 4 in column 7 here. Now you can see it can't be here and it can't be here, so it's got to be in one of these 2 squares. So that is not a 4, and that does give us a bent triple. Now this is a form of a Y-wing, Y-wing being an exotic name for a bent triple, but where the central cell, where the sort of elbow of the Y-wing occurs, if you have three options, and you can see that's what we have here, we have 1, 7 and 8, it's a little bit less powerful. So if for example this square had just been a 1 or an 8 combination, you could see that then we could say, well, either this square is an 8, in which case this is a 7, or it's a 1, in which case this is a 7, and then we could have hunted in the grid for cells like this one that see both of those cells and remove the 7 from them. Now, with 1, 7 and an 8, it's not quite as good, but in this instance we are still going to be able to remove the 7 from this square, because let's think about it. Is it possible that there is no 7 in this triple? Let's try it. Let's try and force there to be no 7. Let's try and make this an 8. You can see the moment I make this an 8, this becomes a 1, 7 double. And if it's not an 8, it must be a 7. So there is definitely a 7 in this triple. And therefore, if there is a cell or cells in the grid that see all three of these cells, they definitely can't have a 7 in them. Well, this cell is the most obvious and I think the only candidate. So does it matter that this cell is not a 7? So if we look along the row, we need 1, 5, 7 and 8. So 1, 5, 8. That is not what I was hoping for. What use is that? Well, I suppose one thing, the only thing I can see it does is it makes these two squares. There's got to be a 7 in one of those two squares. Now, does that matter? We're combining that with this 7, means there's a 7 in one of these two squares. Right, so now let's look at row 2. We need 1, 4, oh, we need another snooker score. We need 1, 4, 7 along here as well. So unfortunately, this square can be anything of those. 1, 4, 7, and this square. Oh, well, this square can only be 1 or 4 now because we've got the 7s locked into those two squares. So this is a new. And there we go. There's a Y. That is a normal Y-wing. So let's have a look now. I'll highlight this actually. This square, and this square. Let's have a look at the cells shaded green. Now, this is the same principle we were just looking at. If these cells were all in the same column, nobody, I think, watching this video would have any difficulty in saying, okay, we have a triple on the numbers 1, 4 and 6, and we can eliminate 1, 4 and 6 from all the other cells in the column. Now, obviously, that's not quite what we've got here, but we still have some useful logic to do. The Y-wing is a very nice technique. So what we do is we find the cell in the center of the Y-wing, i.e. that there's only one of these cells that sees the other two cells. Let's find out which one it is. This cell only sees this one, so it's not that one. This cell only sees this one, so it's not that one. So it's this cell we need to look at. Now, if this cell is a 4, what happens? This cell is a 4, this cell is a 1. If, on the other hand, this cell is a 6, this cell is a 1, so we know one of the wings of the Y, one of the Y-wing's wings, will be a 1. Now that means that if we can find cells in the grid that see this square and this square, we can remove 1 from them. Now there are lots of cells actually. The most obvious one is this one. I've already pencil marked this one. This one cannot have 1 in it. And now that's great actually. We're going to get this is forcing this to be a 1, but let's just check down here as well, because these two cells also see this cell and this cell. So there's not a 1 in either of these positions. So what are the options? So let's actually, we need 3, 4, 6 and 8. So this is 3, 4 or 8. That's not brilliant, is it? And this is 3, 6 or 8. Also not brilliant. Okay, well, maybe this doesn't matter, because what we have got is, if we look along row 2, we have 4, 7, 4, 7. This is the only square in row 2 now that can contain a 1. Let's put the 1 in. See if, and it does immediately. It gives us this cell, which we've already pencil marked. That's going to have to be a 7. This square can no longer be a 1 or a 7, so that's going to be an 8. That allows us to remove 8 from those two squares, and this square becomes a 4. Maybe this is the tipping point, because now we get an 8 and a 7 into those two squares. What else? 7, 7. This square here can no longer be a 4. 3, 6, 9. This square can only be a 9, I think, because if we look at the column, we have 3, 4, 6, and 9 to place. Well, this square sees a 3, 6, or 3, 4, and 6 already. That square is a 9. Therefore, this square is not a 9, which gives us a 4, 6 pair, and that means this is a 7. And now, we are cooking with gas. Now, this 9 is looking down here, means that's a 9 by the pencil marks we'd already placed. We need to put a 2, and what's the other digit we're missing here? A 7, I think. So that's now resolved. That must be 7 and 2 in that order. These two squares are 5 and 8. I don't know why I've got 7 in there still. I shouldn't be there. 5 and 8 here. 7. This square can only be 1 or 5. 6. 3's down here. 1, 5, 8. One of these situations where I feel I'm not seeing the wood for the trees. 1, 4, and 5 into these two squares. Where can we put a 4 now in row 4 of the grid? Only in this square. And this becomes a 1 or a 5. We've now got a 1, 5 pair in column 1, so this square definitely isn't a 5 anymore, which means this is a 5. The moment I place the 5, I can unwind the so-called Snyder notation, place the 8 here as well. Now this 8 is pointing at this square, so that's going to make that a 1, that a 5, that an 8, that a 5, that a 6. This must be a 6 now. This has to be a 3, this is a 4, wow. So that's it, that's what we needed to spot, I think the puzzle's solved. We needed to find sort of this so-called XYZ wing coming round here, and then the classic Y wing, which was in the green squares, and I think that has broken the puzzle. So 2 and 3 into these two positions, 3, 2, 1, 3, hopefully this will be a 1, let's check. It's all looking good, and that is how to solve classic Sudoku from the Netherlands. So Andrew, I hope you enjoyed me running through that, and we'll be back soon with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.